Hello, Guy. Welcome.
Thank
And
you, Taya.
thank you for being here with me today. And thank you and welcome everyone who will watch this recording. So today I'm really honored to talk to Guy Lawrence, a remarkable individual whose journey from a plumber in Wales to a global influencer in wellness, coaching, and entrepreneurship is nothing short of inspiring. So his story is truly a testament to resilience, intuition, and the pursuit of authentic living. Based in Australia, Guy has dedicated himself to transforming lives and guiding others towards soulful living. In 2010, he co-founded 180 Nutrition, a health and wellness company that swiftly gained national recognition, becoming a multi-million-dollar business within just 3 years. And under his leadership, the company launched a highly successful podcast, having over 2 million downloads in a short span. What sets Guy apart is his commitment to heart-based decision-making and intuitive trust, principles that have guided him through numerous achievements and challenges. Over the past 15 years, he has delved deep into the essence of wellness, exploring holistic practices like meditation, shamanic rituals, breath work, to unlock the secrets of true happiness and fulfillment. In 2015, a profound spiritual awakening shifted Guy into a new realm of understanding, leading to countless mystical experiences that shaped his exploration of consciousness and the human condition. Stepping away from the security of 180 Nutrition in 2018, Guy launched the Let It In with Guy Lawrence podcast. That is really amazing podcast, featuring insightful conversation with leading experts and individuals who have undergone profound personal transformations. This platform integrates science and spirituality and hosts some very interesting people. So you should definitely take a look at it. We will talk a bit more about it later. And in 2019, Guy co-founded Live in Flow, introducing programs designed to bridge the gap between one's current reality and their deepest aspirations, helping individuals discover their true selves and how to live authentically. In Live in Flow, he is not alone. He partners up with Matt Omo and our Petra Brzovic that we all know very well. So we also have an exciting announcement, but we will get to that later. So this was a brief introduction about you, even though our audience already heard about you and had the opportunity to meet you, but still for those who meet you the first time. So do you want to add something to that? This is...
It's not very often. So first of all, I'm really honored to be here and be invited on to speak to you, Taya. And it's not very often I actually hear my own bio being read out these days, because I'm always on the other side of the microphone on my podcast normally. And yeah, it was a trip down memory lane for me then, actually, a lot of those experiences. And as glamorous or as a bio can sound, successful and achieving and doing all these wonderful things, there's been a huge amount of challenges and highs and lows and growth, let's say growth during those times as well.
Of course.
And I'm so grateful for all the opportunities and the challenges and the growth and the constant leaning into getting to know ourselves better continues, and the quest to answer the bigger question in who am I and who are we really at the end of the day, and what does it all mean? The meaning, so it's nice to hear that being read back to me, and I just think, wow, is that me?
Yeah, sometimes it feels it's another life.
That's right, because it goes so quickly.
Yeah, but can you tell us now, when we are on the bio on this part of our conversation, can you share a bit more about your journey? Because it's really a remarkable story from from actually moving to Australia, then co-founding multi-million-dollar company, to changing people's lives through podcasts, workshops, and retreats. Can you say a bit about your journey? What was the reason for you to move to Australia? When did it happen? What was the turning point?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. It's like, how long do you got? I'll try and keep it succinct. But honestly, I moved to Australia 20 years ago now. And when I moved here, it felt like, because I was at a dead end, I was lost. I actually didn't know where to turn and how to apply myself in life. I felt very uh, removed from society. I didn't understand. I felt like I never fitted in. And even though through my 20s, I traveled a lot and I experienced life and had many good memories, I always remember, when reflecting back, that wherever I went, there was always an emptiness within me that, sorry, my phone is ringing here. Let me just turn that off.
No problem.
Oh, there we go. Apologies. Oh my goodness. Can you hear that?
No. But maybe you can hear my cats running around.
There you go. No, that's okay. I'm back. Apologies.
No
So
problem.
I always felt that when I was traveling, I was running away from my problems. I think we can hide from them very well. And ultimately, it wasn't knowing how to deal with underlying feelings and emotions that I'd never been taught from a young age or through life. I'm not sure it's like in Croatia, but growing up in Wales as a man, I was always told to suck it up, get on with it, and, get drunk, drink more beer, play rugby. And that was that. There was no real mentors or guidance into, I guess, the bigger questions and what this all meant for me to help direct me. So I didn't know what to do with any of that. So I just traveled. And at 30 years of age, that was the cutoff point in being able to emigrate to Australia with a visa. So I chose to, that put a pressure on me that made me apply to get my residency. I used my plumbing, which allowed me to get enough points for immigration to come. And then it was a clean slate and wanting to start again. So from that point, when I was here in Australia, there was still this burning desire in me. At this point, I was starting to listen to Deepak Chopra. I remember reading his book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And I was also listening to Wayne Dyer. And I had a CD player. I don't know if you remember those, Taya, but I had a CD player, a portable one, about this size. And I used to wear it on my hip.
On a belt,
on a belt, that's right. And I would go and sit in a park in Sydney and start listening to these guys. And really, I felt like for the first time, somebody, even though I'd never met them, I had no idea, but somebody understood me and what was happening internally. It was the first, and I couldn't believe it. It was only at that point I was only discovering them. I was like, why didn't anyone tell me about these earlier? Why is there now? Neil Donald Walsh was another Conversations with God. I remember reading that on the way over to Australia. Actually, The Alchemist, Paul Coelho. It was just all this information. It was just right at the time, and I joined the fitness industry because I was passionate about sport and fitness, and I started really listening to that. That was starting to give me hope while I was then honing my skills in the fitness industry here in Australia. And what really happened was, with the supplement company in 2010, which I think is why I'm so passionate today about authentic living and really following our heart, because I ended up working with people with cancer, and I was helping them rehabilitation through weight training at the gymnasium that I worked at the university. And it started to really teach me the value of life and how precious my health was. There's something I just took for granted, as a 30-year-old, 31, 32-year-old living in Sydney. And it started to make me ponder more on the value of life and my life. And also I really got frustrated with the food industry and the way marketing is done and the way, and I was
Of course.
almost starting to go, okay, I'm going to fly a flag here and do something
Yeah.
about this kind of thing. So it was almost like for the first time in my life, I was able to take a lot of my pains, a lot of my frustrations, and a lot of things I hadn't dealt with channel it into a direction for good. So I was then able to use that energy to propel me moving forward, even anger and things that would arise because I hadn't resolved certain things. And I didn't know what I was doing when it came to business, but I knew what I was doing when it came to health.
Yeah.
So it was through that sheer passion that I decided to have a go, and synchronicity started to happen. I was leaning into meditation. I was continuing to listen to the people I was just sharing, and it was all starting to merge in a way that I could actually see tangible shifts in my life for the first time.
Yeah.
That it wasn't some esoteric concept that felt nice to make me feel good, but my life wasn't changing.
Yeah,
I
understand.
And
yeah.
one of the biggest lessons in that melting pot at that time for me was that even though my circumstance didn't change straight away, I had changed.
Yeah.
And my perception of my circumstances had changed. So it's ridiculous to think that everything's just going to magically shift overnight in some respects. But what I was doing, I was able to change the trajectory of the way I felt, the way I thought, my enthusiasm, my willpower behind it. Like it was all creating this energetic momentum in a different direction.
Yeah.
And it continued to flow. So, and which inspired me to try this, lean into the different concepts. Why not become more curious as opposed to negative, closed off, and buy into my old story, which had actually kept me locked in my imaginary prison in my 20s, that emotional box.
Yeah. So there was not like one moment that triggered you to start like some spiritual journey, and
no, it
was
was a
the whole
slow
period.
burn.
Slow
Yeah.
burn.
I think in my when I was 4 or 5, I had a mystical experience, actually, and I saw these beings come into my bedroom, and there was these beautiful angelic beings, and I still remember it to this day, clear as day. And I was like, wow. And I had this moment with them. I can see it now when I close my eyes still. I mean, probably my imagination comes in a bit. And I remember going down the next day. My dad was cooking breakfast. My sister was there, was a bit older. I said, Mommy, Dad, yeah, Mommy, Daddy, I saw these fairies. Like I was like 4 or whatever. And they all laughed and just said, okay, that's nice, son,
What was their perspective on spirituality? Did you grow up in a family that was very spiritual, or they were
not
more
at all.
down to the earth?
Not at all. No, not at all. I think, they were open to things. There was a curious, but it wasn't practiced. It wasn't lent into. I mean, I grew up in the valleys of Wales, Taya, so there wasn't even a yoga studio. There was nothing. I never even went to, like, I didn't even grow up religious. It was, I was, which looking back, I hadn't been shaped in any way, which was a good thing in some respects, because I was still a bit of a blank slate. So even though it frustrated me, it was actually a gift when I look back later in my life, because there were many things that I didn't have to unlearn to allow these concepts to really start to flow. So yeah, it was a slow burn, and it just continued to build and build through that. Because what happened was my supplement company, you mentioned in the bio, in just over 3 years, it became a multi-million-dollar company. At this point, I was still unhappy because I hadn't been able to meet the right person or hold on a relationship. I thought success would make me more significant.
Yeah.
I went out and bought a Ducati. I lived by the beach, and I was still unhappy once I achieved these things. And it really, really emphasized, like, I'm a slow learner, so I think I need to be told multiple times. but it really emphasized that the true peace, joy, and love is within.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to find it is by going inward more. And that's where the gold lies. And it wasn't then until I really started to understand what it meant to start to heal my traumas, heal my wounds, allow energy to flow again that had been held for a long time, to start to experience that. Did I then realize that's where it really is? It's on the inside, not the external world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how would you today define spirituality, and how has your understanding of it evolved over time, especially in relation to this journey that you mentioned from Wales to Australia and going through all this awakening? And
wow, that's a, I don't get asked that often. To me, if I look at spirituality for a moment and unpack that, I always think of this unified field, this source energy, the universe, this unconditional resonance of love, this space beyond space and time, the eternal now. Pure, it's pure. It's what gives rise to creation. And for it to give rise to creation, Taya and Guy, it has to separate itself to then be able to reflect back upon itself, to allow us to have experiences. Because if all we ever experienced was pure love, how would we ever experience anything else? We wouldn't know anything else. We get really bored.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So through that separation, to me, then it's about spirituality is being able to experience what it's like to be physical and have these experiences, but also to learn from them, grow from them, and allow us then to come back home to ourselves. And that journey to then is back to truth. It's back to the perfection that we truly are, the light within us.
Yeah.
And it's in that journey back to self, the source, anything that's not serving us, anything that's not in resonance with that needs to fall away. And it's in that falling away as we find our authenticity, our divine self, are we then in resonance with source. And therein lies the magic, the mystery, the experiences that we are, that ultimately supports the expansion of the universe. So I guess that's a long-winded answer to how I see spirituality, because I think we can use it as an escapism as well, not to deal with the things, the challenges that come up in our lives. But true spirituality for me is the true growth in allowance to more to our authentic self, which will bring us closer back home to source. So we need to look at the dirt. We need to lift up the rug. We need to know what's going on, what isn't there with us, what has been imposed upon us, whether in this life or through generational inheritance, through trauma, or through past lives, if you believe that as well. And not that it matters where it came from and whose it was, but we have an opportunity to honor ourselves now, let that go, and lean closer to the divine and live from that place in the here and now, in the physical world. But we need to get our hands dirty doing it.
Exactly, to really do the work, not just stay in a theory, because often people say they're very spiritual and then they just dive into theory, but never really get their hands dirty, as you say, and go inward and search and work on their inner world. So that's interesting. You mentioned that you were like a blank page, so that you were using different practices. Like I read about shamanic rituals and some cold exposure and the yoga and movement. So can you maybe say something about that and how these practices contributed to your spiritual growth and understanding of human consciousness?
Okay, so if I kind of look on a linear time frame of how I started to look back, I always had this knowing, this feeling, there's got to be more. It's like this magnetism. You're just getting drawn to something and you can't put your finger on it. And then I was podcasting through the old company and I was speaking to beautiful people. Like I spoke to Greg Braden. I had him, Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Alberto, who I know through the Four Winds, and and I was having these amazing conversations early on as I was exploring because I had a platform to do it. And it really started to dawn on me that once I flipped the concept that we are an energetic being having a physical experience, as opposed to a physical being just becoming conscious and having experience. And then I started to learn and understand more about the energy systems, the chakras or the energy centers or whatever you want to call them, and how they're intertwined. Because I like some of the science behind things as well. Like I like the fact that, we have an endocrine system and then we have to secrete hormones to allow us to have an emotion and a feeling. It's allowing us to experience reality. And they are then influencing my thoughts. And of course, my thoughts are influencing my feelings, but it's all kind of given rise. Well, what's underneath all of that given rise? And it's like, oh, well, it's the energy systems of the body. And I started to then want to go, well, that's giving me something practical to work with here. And if I actually work with my physical body and I can use my breath, my lungs, my awareness beyond my five senses, my intention behind something as well, and start to work with it, I wonder what happens, and began curious. So I started to lean into reading and exploring these concepts and then I had something to hook into with a meditative practice as well, because I could feel tangible energy start to shift. So I would actually just start going through my energy centers. I had no idea what I was doing. And I would just sit there, close my eyes and, okay, well, there's my root chakra. Okay, I feel nothing. This is really frustrating. What are they talking about? Really? Come on, but because I think I was driven by pain, but driven by excitement at the same time to what's possible.
Yeah, to explore.
And then I started exploring with sound early on. That's how I met Matt, over 10 years ago now, and felt the vibrations through my body going, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. And then I remember my heart just bursting open energetically. And in a particular session in Sydney, I was laying on the floor in a room with 20 strangers with the sound. This was at one of Matt's sessions early on. And the next thing I know, I'm like, this contraction came in. And it was like, oh my God, I feel like I can't breathe. And the next thing you know, it was like, poof. And all this grief came out of my dad passing the year before. And I was like, oh my God, that was unbelievable. And all of a sudden, I'm having a real tangible experience of what it felt like to relieve grief from my energetic self. Because it's like, where is it? Like, you can't see it. You can't open yourself up and pull it out, with tweezers. It's beyond that. So, and then once I started having that, I'm like, right, what else is in there that's not mine, or is preventing me being my true self? And from that point, I just continued to start to explore. And that's why I started looking at ice baths and cold exposure and heat and challenging my body and being able to start to put myself in these environments where I would have, the only place to be is in the present moment to survive, but then look at the health benefits from it, because I really feel if we are, you know, this physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual being, and we need to address all of them and look after all of them. And yes, I feel from the spiritual aspect will have the biggest effect, like a top down, you know, it's like a stream becomes a river. And if you affect the stream, you can alter the direction of the river downstream. But also my physical body is allowing me to experience life and actually house and experience the energy. So I found the more I look after myself and explore that, the deeper my connection to source has become as well through that. So these modalities, and it's important as well to have people around you that understand, that you can lean on and have guides or mentors. And that's why I'm so passionate about guiding other people through retreats and workshops and that, because I've been there. I know exactly when that person's sitting there where they are, what it feels like to be frustrated, stuck, feel hopeless, feel scared, feel like you're going to explode if an emotion comes up. You know,
definitely.
So it's been a fascinating journey. And I think where people get stuck, and I found this analogy really helpful for me, is that we want to have more love, right? We want to like have more peace, joy, and abundance, and really feel into these things. And we will lean into esoteric concepts, and we'll go into chakras or mantras, or, you know, toning or voice or group, whatever the modalities are.
Yeah.
But if you think of your body for a moment, imagine I had a big glass jar holding here now, nice big glass jar. And I've put the bottom quarter of the jar was full of ping pong balls. Imagine ping pong balls, right?
Yeah.
You know, and those ping pong balls, and then you throw in even smaller balls, little spiky balls, right? And that is your wounds and your traumas from utero, right?
Yeah.
And we suppress them. We haven't been taught how to move them, express them. And then we start leaning into these practices. You go, I'm going to change. I'm going to meditate on my chakras every morning. I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to visualize my future, my abundance. I'm going to welcome it all in. So we start, then imagine pouring water into that jar. And that water is pouring in the love, pouring in source energy, pouring in all the things that are going to raise your vibration. What's going to happen to those ping pong balls and those spiky bits? They're going to start to float up the jar. So all of a sudden, all the crud, all the trauma, all the spiky stuff that you've not dealt with, that you're not even aware
will come
is
to
there,
the surface. Yeah.
It comes to the surface. And the next thing you know, we feel terrible. We then impose upon that feeling on every situation in our life. We give more meaning to our coworker we don't like. We judge that person over there a bit more. We talk ill about people and gossip about these people over here. We complain more that we don't have enough money. We then imposing this stuff never works. And what do? We give up. And then all that stuff was so close to starting to be cleared.
Yeah, it goes back.
It settles all the way back down. And then all the love's away. So we have to be mindful that this is where the work is. This is where it's waves, it's highs and lows. And as we explore that, the last thing we want to see is people to give up, and including myself. And I know I've been that person when those ping pong balls come up to
going up and down. Yeah.
Oh, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. I'm just going to deny myself and distract for another 3 months. But you will always get led back to the same truths.
Mm.
So it's like, if not now, when?
Mm.
At the
What
end of the day.
what advice would you give to people that have these challenges and they want to give up and they start the work and then they get upset and have all these negative effects, let's say, that are actually the blessings because everything is going to be cleared and they are changing? What kind of advice would you give them? What to do?
There's a few things. I think proximity is power. I remember Tony Robbins saying that a long time ago. So make sure you have people that you connect with or mentors that you connect with, and place yourself in an environment where other people understand what you're going through. If you feel alone, isolated, and you've not walked the terrain before, or not been able to get past that point, it's very challenging. It's very challenging. I think I just had such a gutful of my old way. And at that point in my life, I hadn't had children yet. I was not with my wife at the time. I was single. Just hadn't met my wife. So I kind of was in a space where I'm just doing this. Like, but I made sure I had key people in my life that I could turn to. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you have to do loving things for yourself. You have to have empathy for the challenges that you're going through. And I really believe developing awareness is a skill.
Yeah.
And having enough awareness to detach from what's actually happening in the moment without putting the meaning, without putting the judgments upon it. And that takes time. It really is 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And the other thing I did that I found really helpful for me was I actually spent time journaling. What would my average perfect day look like? And I spent days on it, thinking about it. And I would go and get a coffee in the morning, and I would sit down and I'd like, what would it really be? Like, what would fill me up if I followed my enthusiasm? And knowing that would never let me down. Like, what got me excited? And it didn't have to be unrealistic, having a Ferrari outside, all this egotistical bloody nonsense that gets spouted. Well, what would it be like? And then I started to have a vision, and I made sure I read it every day. So, and every time I felt crippled by those ping pong balls that were coming up, I would stop, I would breathe into my heart, and I would read my average perfect day. And I think I want my future now more than my past. And I would keep leaning in, finding my edge. What's my edge of my comfort zone and my discomfort? Just like a yoga pose.
Yeah.
You find your edge, and I would lean in, and I would honor that. I think, well, what have I got to lose? The thing is, Taya, and if there's one thing I want to emphasize for everyone listening, is that we forget how precious life is. And we forget how beautiful a gift this really is, that we have this opportunity to truly explore what life is. And if we can shift our perspective, we can shift our life.
Yeah.
It's all just a change in perspective. And I'd encourage people to find ways each day to remind themselves how precious your life is right now. And if you believe there are souls that we do live beyond the physical experience, and how much they are wanting to have a human experience right now, just to know what chocolate tastes like, just to know what a walk in the park feels like, fresh air. We have it everywhere. Beauty is everywhere if we choose to focus on it. We just got to become aware enough to recognize that.
Yeah, definitely. What was the most challenging on your journey? Is it maybe sometimes lack of discipline, or I don't know, this feeling of being alone? just so that maybe people can relate to
Okay, yeah, my
some.
biggest challenge was loneliness. Even though I had people around me, I always felt alone. I never felt I could fully connect with people. Like I connect with people. I was a likable person. I had people, but every time I put my head down at night by myself, I felt lonely, and that terrified me. It
You could
terrified
not
me.
connect on a deeper level and maybe share some topics that
I
are.
No, it was because I now looking back, I understood what it was, but I hadn't been able to allow, like my whole life, I never understood why we do the things we do. I always kept asking questions around why do people have a job they don't like?
Yeah.
And have to earn money to pay off a mortgage and be in a relationship they don't seem that happy with. And I was like, none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense. But because I didn't know, because I didn't know any other way, then all I could do was isolate myself from all of it. And what I realized was that all I was doing was perceiving life through an environment that I had conditioned my body to from traumatic experiences. There was one point in my life at a young age where I had a learned behavior where for me to retract and isolate, I felt safe as a little child. Now, I didn't know that, but then I'd conditioned my body to that environment. So this is how you're going to feel safe through life, because the outside world made no sense. It doesn't feel safe at some unconscious level, not the conscious mind, because the conscious mind, we can rationalize everything. So the behavioral patterns. So that was then feeding into how I felt, which was shifting my perception, which then the external world was the lens I was looking, and I was perceiving everything, and I felt stuck. But the moment I actually started exploring and releasing those wounds, the moment it started to then free up my energy and free up my sense of feeling within myself and how I valued myself and others, allowed me to deeper connection. So we have a saying, like we run one-day events called Reconnected. And through that reconnection, we say, first of all, we need to reconnect to ourselves, to really start to connect to ourselves. And if we start to connect with ourselves, it'll open up something within us, because we feel much more safe. We feel much more worthy within ourselves to be human. Like the biggest things that we see is lack of safety in people and lack of worthiness. They're probably the two biggest when we get to the root within our retreats and stuff. Because then that opens up, it allows you to connect more to people.
Of course.
I could actually allow someone in. I ran away from relationships. I ran away from jobs. I ran away from society because I would freak out when things got serious. And I didn't know why. And it was because of those wounds. So then once you reconnect to yourself, it allows you to reconnect with others. Then that opens up a whole possibility within the world. You connect with nature deeper, and then you connect with source, something far greater. So it's like this multi-tiered approach that if we allow, then we can really be. The problem is, Taya, we go running to connect with source, and we don't reconnect to ourselves first.
Okay. Yeah, we forget that basic first step.
First step. The deeper the roots of the tree in the ground, the more grounded and earthed we are, the greater the reach to source we can be. But we need to get these foundational roots in first, you know?
Yeah. I guess this also feeling of loneliness and this need of going through the whole journey in a way alone, even though you had people you can turn to, but still you felt you're alone, that you are safe with being alone, also kind of motivated you to found Live in Flow, co-found, okay? And, you know, to build this great community there that is really supportive, and it's amazing place to be. So can you maybe share a few words about that for people? that maybe
Yeah.
are not part
Yeah.
of it yet.
Sure. So at the end of the day, to tie up the journey, I sold out of my company in
Yes.
2018 because I knew I wasn't on my authentic self anymore.
Mm.
Too many decisions got made, too much money got involved, too many, just deceit was starting to come in. There was just things that weren't right.
Mm.
And it's like, how did I end up here? And I've been having all these experiences, and I was starting having mystical experiences, and started to have all this transformational things that really confirmed what I believe is a spirit have in a physical body, and this much deeper understanding. And I thought, wow, how do I pass this on to others? Because this has just revolutionized my life.
Was it difficult for you to leave that safety and jump in
Terrifying.
Something
Of course, terrifying. I wish I could say, not a piece of cake, mate. No problem. No, it was terrifying because even though I didn't know it, my identity was wrapped up in being significant around the successful supplement company. And it's like, you're known for that, and now you're going to go and teach meditation and spirituality. Are you nuts?
Yeah, I can imagine what people around you were saying.
Well, this is the thing. So it's like, but I was having clear signs. Do it, because then every night when I went to bed, I wasn't like when I was telling you when I felt lonely. It was every night when I was going back, it was like I was daydreaming about energy centers and energy and quantum physics and how the universe works. And it's like, how can I get this information? People need to know this. This needs to be common knowledge. When you have some kind of experience with the divine and have an awakening, or know that how powerful you really are, you just want to tell others.
Of course.
We're ready to listen.
Yeah. I mean, it's also amazing for people to hear that it's okay to leave what they were doing until now, even though they are successful, or they're doing what they love, or they started it with following their heart. It's still okay to, change direction and move on.
1,000%. And I've been slowly moving. There's so many things I've left out, like, along the way to get to that point. And then I thought, honestly, if I'm going to help others and teach this, the only way I can do it is live it first. That's why I stepped off, sold out, and just I'm going this way now. That's it.
Yeah, but it was not in a way clear cut. I mean, you were doing podcast and you were exploring all these things. It was not, now I'm doing other things. You were kind of preparing yourself in a way, and you were...
I didn't know how I was going to do it there.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to work with Matt and Petra. All I knew was that I wanted to get this information out here. And the podcast that I have was the first thing I started, because I had the podcast with my supplement company. And when I stepped down and sold out, that was all gone. And the first thing I did was start a new podcast to start talking about spirituality and quantum physics, and get as many people on here as I can to have these conversations around, and just start putting that out. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to start a workshop. I've got to, how am I going to do this? I don't know, but I'm going to pick up the phone and see if somebody will have me. And then even if one person turns up to that workshop, I'm going to run it, because somebody's going to listen to me and what I have to say. Like, I removed my, like, it's like, I don't care. That's it. Like, that was the determination. And in that first year, Taya, I ran nearly 40 workshops. Just by, I'm going in this direction. I don't care. I'm doing it. Like, that's it. I'm all in. And because I made a deal with the universe that I'm all in, I am not 99%, not 98, 100% in. It worked out.
Amazing.
Synchronicities kept happening. The next
was it difficult? Were you doubting, or you were like, I know this is going to work?
Terrified.
Okay.
No, you're dancing all the time, because when you get centered, beyond the mind and beyond the human condition,
Of course.
Right? And that's where our power lies. Okay, that's where our true will is. If we can cultivate that fire, that dantien, that energy within us. This is me, right?
Mm.
Then you got to live life. You know, you're driving in traffic, you got people, you got things, you got stresses. It's like the extreme sport living life, right? You're like,
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ, what's over there? and you get knocked off center all the time.
Yeah.
But just like going to the gym, just like anything, you got to keep building your muscles.
Mm.
So I continued to lean into all the tools I knew that I was out there wanting to preach to others, remember. Then I'm like, every time it came up, I got an opportunity here to practice another muscle building session, because I want to ensure, because people are, the way I see it, people are not going to connect with another guru. People are not going to connect with another doctor. Like, we got loads of them, right? What we need is people that are walking the path, that have got a few arrows in their back or scars from their experiences, and they're able to show, hey, if I've done it, you can too. That's what I think. That's what I'm at. But that's what I needed anyway. I'm not saying that anything's right or wrong, but that's what I needed as well. So of course I would always be scared. But you know, I already knew Matt. I'd met Petra the year before.
Yeah, I just wanted to
aligned.
ask you to share a bit story of Live and Flow, how it all started. Like,
so I'd met Petra at a retreat, and through different circumstances, and she was an Australian citizen, it turned out, and she then was coming to Australia a few months later after the retreat. And then she came to Australia and actually came to my workshop. I said, oh, I'm running a workshop. So she came and sat in the audience. And we caught up. And by this time, you know, Matt was a dear friend. I'd gone through his work. We stayed connected all that time. And at the time, I said to Petra when she was visiting, hey, look, I've been out here doing some workshops and things, and I've got a community, and they really want me to put a retreat on. I said, you know, you're the first person I thought of, Petra. Would you want to help? But on one condition, I got to ask Matt. And she said, oh, yeah, let's do it. I'll come back and see, you know. And then I rang up Matt. I said, Matt, you're the first person I thought of, but on one condition, with Petra, do you want to do a retreat? Because I knew what I was good at, and I also knew my blind spots, my weaknesses. This is my entrepreneurial side coming into me, you know, with any business. And I could see how gifted Petra was and how Matt was. We ran a retreat, and we've run 22 since, you know, like that was before COVID, that first retreat, but it was so magical. We were so blown away by the synchronicities again and how it turned out. We felt we were doing something very special and wanted to keep going as opposed to being an individual. And yeah, that's how Live and Flow started.
Nice. What you are always saying, and I like it, that your retreats are not escape from reality, like retreats are usually are. You retreat from your reality, but you are actually encouraging and people and helping them to build new reality that they don't want to escape from, that they are satisfied with. And
exactly. And it's a journey, you know, life is a journey. Things never change overnight, but if we're willing to really consider what we value the most and what means the most to us, and nurture those elements, and invite people into our lives that can support us, help us with the similar values, and slowly over time let go of the things that are not serving us anymore to really move in the right direction. It's amazing what ground we can cover in a year, 5 years, 10 years, and things like that, you know.
Of course. But change doesn't happen overnight, and this is what people somehow expect, and they get disappointed if it doesn't happen. This is always important to emphasize, because we were living in a certain way for so many years, and now we want to change it completely within a day, but it's not possible. We need this sport attitude and discipline that you are having, and that is pushing you, that I can see you are always mentioning. It's like building the muscles. It takes time.
It does take time. It takes time. But one thing I will say to you is that anything that I've worked hard for in my life feels so fulfilling. If it came like that, with no wisdom, with no lessons, with not overcoming these challenges, what's the point? Like, what am I going to get from that, really? It's just going to be another commodity that's going to end up in the cupboard.
Exactly. Yeah. And from this perspective, what do you see as a biggest success in your life so far?
My biggest success in my life so far? Oh, gosh. I actually think the first thing I think of is my family. Only because of how lonely I felt for such a long time, to my 2 children and my wife, and the gift that they bring in happiness to me. It's like, if people only see this now, they don't see what I've been through to have this in my life. That's my biggest success. And also the congruency, like the alignment of my passions and my purpose and my contribution and my family. It's like this
mix of everything.
It's just this beautiful dynamic that keeps evolving, challenging me, growing from. I don't live for a Friday to wish my week away, so I can escape for a Saturday to then regret on a Sunday morning to start all over again.
Yeah.
That was my life. That was my life at one stage. And it's taken me a long time to get to this position. But I went after it. And I went after it with my heart, not my head.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, my greatest success for me, really.
Beautiful. Yeah. You also mentioned experiencing dozens of mystical experiences after your awakening or during this process of awakening. Could you share some of those? Maybe that had the most profound impact on you. Maybe you can choose what you want to share. This is also for us, for Unity Creation, a very interesting topic, because we are in a month of these mystical topics, as we are having a free masterclass with Matthias De Stefano, but we will mention that later. So this is now the hot topic for our audience.
when I had my awakening, it was like, it's almost like, think of a flower just slowly, almost blossoming. You've constantly been tending to the garden and you're nurturing the environment, and then it finally blooms. So I'd been doing the work, okay? And that, I love that metaphor as well, because we always tend to just shake the flower, just awaken. We don't actually we don't tend to everything else and nurture that love into it for it to blossom naturally, okay? So what happened for me was, I was working through my energy centers, and then I could feel like, oh, this energy starting to release and want to go. And I laid down and I just let it flow. I just thought, I surrendered. I went through a shamanic journey a few years before, which really taught me what it meant to surrender. So I surrendered into this energy, knowing I was safe. And this energy opened my pineal gland. The methyltryptamine came out. Everything went white. And all of a sudden, everything then became, I could see energy through my pineal gland. I could see the universe. Everything was starting to work. And then just, do you remember there's an old film called The Abyss. I don't know if you've ever seen it, for James Cameron.
I know it, but I haven't seen it.
There's a scene where this water comes out, and it's like a shape of a face came on it. And this being came out with me. And then it placed its hand on my shoulder. And I felt these waves of energy starting to come back into me. And then it put me in this cocoon of orange cocoon of energy, just melted around inside. And I could see the energy coming through my shoulder, all these orange gold streaks. And I was like, oh my God. And my body was physically turning as well. And something was happening. And I just started leaving these pulses of light. And then it all settled down, and the energy continued to come out of my hands, come out of my head, come out of my feet. It was like I felt, even with my eyes open, standing up, I just could feel the toruses that people spoke of, and it was like, wow. And I'm looking at it, and all my shoulder injury was gone. And I was like, wow, that's insane. And then from there, what started happening was when I don't share this much, but so when I stepped down from my company and started going out to doing the workshops I spoke about, like I was sometimes energetically exhausted from it. I hadn't learned how to manage my energy correctly at that point. I'm working with people's emotions. And what would happen 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I reckon it must have happened 5 or 6 times during that first year, that period, the beings would come back in. But I didn't need to have the energy experience. And I would feel them, and they'd come into my field, and they would work with me and their energies to support me on what I was doing. So that started happening. We've been able to have this dialogue with them almost beyond verbal, which was incredible. And then all of a sudden it became very tangible and very real, because I didn't have to be doing all these things to have these experiences. And then from there, I started to astral project and leave the body, which was very interesting, because that was another valuable lesson for me, because there was a lot of fear and belief systems around the safety of our body. So then that started to happen, and be able to then explore other areas, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Really.
Amazing. And
yeah,
how did it reflect on your everyday life? Like, was it, I mean, you just said you had those beliefs, and it was, I guess, a bit scary at the beginning, but what kind of lessons did it bring to you?
Well, see, the biggest lesson of all is that I feel that, remember the pure light source, love, the pure, and we're transmuting fears into love. If we're not doing something, if we're not living our authentic truth, there's something holding us back. There's an unknown, there's a belief in the way, there's ultimately fundamentally a fear that's in the way, I believe. And as we start to allow those ping pong balls to come up, then sometimes our deepest fears are going to start to arise at some stage. But they're so terrifying, because they're our fears. We don't want to deal with them, right? But if we can transmute that fear, release it, transmute it into this pure love, then we've just overcome ourselves again, and we're allowing our soul's evolution to grow. And for me, death is a big one, or for any human. And when you leave the body, trust me, you're overcome. Like, there's a lot of fear of death. All these things start to come up in your life. And I never forget when Wayne Dyer speaking, and he said, to truly live, you must die first. And it's almost the death of the ego to know that you are really this divine light being having this physical experience. So you can truly live without those fears holding you back, and embrace it all, and see the gifts in everything, and slow down enough to appreciate what we have and where we are. So there was huge lessons for me in those experiences around that. But I always felt very grounded around it too. Like, I think that's one of my strengths, is I'm just a guy from Wales that played rugby and drank beer, and I now do what I do. And I just want to keep things real, because you can have all these experiences, right? Then what?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is what I wanted to say, that you are so like a regular in a way. It's not like that people are saying you were born this way, you got these talents. It's like something that every person can somehow experience. And what is the way? What can you say is the way for a regular person to open up for these mystical experiences? It's not something that, it's only saved for some people. Others can feel it too. And it's not something like some extraordinary power that you have to be born with. You can have it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the biggest question is to ask yourself, why do you want it? To really ponder on that thought first. Because if you go chasing it, the carrot is always going to remain 3 feet away from you. And if you're chasing a mystical experience, which I'm guilty of, right?
Yeah, we all are.
We all are. But I think the true craftsmanship or the true mastery lies in the self-awareness aspect. Because if you're chasing an experience like that, in some aspect, you're telling yourself what you have now is not complete. Because once you have the experience, what are you going to do with it? You have it, but then you've got to still pay your bills, go to work, and do, like, you know what I mean? So the key is, and it's such an overused word, but it's to really surrender into living your life experience. Really create space in your life, if you can, to slow down into moments of just pondering and being, and set the intent. Surprise me, universe. I want to, obviously do practices and meditations that encourage opening of the energy centers and the pineal gland. Absolutely. But don't get impatient by it. Actually, just start to treat it like you were brushing your teeth. You don't check your teeth every day. Well, I don't anyway. Like, to make sure that they will have, like, they're getting cleaner. You just kind of do it and you forget about it and you move on. So I think the key is to embrace life, embrace here and now, and then let it surprise you.
Exactly. Yeah. People often set goal, I want to experience that, but then they forget about everyday small things, like their life, living their life. They want to escape into this mystical and extraordinary and something different, not realizing that they should first work on those ping pong balls so that they can come to the point where they can experience this.
Keep clearing the ping pong balls. Keep clearing them.
Yeah. Can you also maybe share with us what is the most interesting interview you had on this topic in your podcast? Like any special guest, or, I mean, it's really amazing podcast, and I'm inviting everyone to check it out.
Thank you.
So you can maybe share something about it, where people can find it. It's free content, so maybe you can say something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many interesting guests on there. It blows my mind. I want to actually share a guest that I actually haven't released the episode yet. It's coming out in a few weeks. It's with a gentleman by the name of Jim Self. And he's just this old wise man. He's absolutely beautiful. And he goes very deep with esoteric concepts and archangels and creation of the universe and different layers of reality. I remember getting off that conversation just going, okay, my mind is officially blown again. Because just when you think you're getting the hang of it, there's always more. There's always more. I really enjoy those conversations. There's a beautiful gentleman called Dr. Ibrahim Karim. He is an Egyptian architect, but he's also studied what's called French rhodesianism, which was then merged with his Egyptian architecture, but that created what's called biogeometry. And it's like looking at the power grids of the world and the sacred sites, and how places like Machu Picchu, Peru, the Egyptian pyramids, Stonehenge, all these sacred places are used to enhance the energy grids of the earth to create more life force and for more healing, for more plantation growth. Like, it's fascinating. And he's using that technology now to bring it into our homes and into our personal environments, which I think is critical as well, because we resonate. It's what's called sympathetic resonance, that we resonate to our environment. So if our environment is not set up to support life force in us, we're making things much harder for ourselves. So there's so many things to explore that allow us to support it. And the list goes on. I've had over 300 people on there now. So it's a long list.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning this topic. It's actually a great announcement. I just want to briefly mention it for our listeners. We are having now our free program with Matthias De Stefano, and these are also the topics that he's talking about. And you can learn more about this free program in his not free program, but free masterclass until 19th of May at 11:59 p.m. Central European Time. And also we are offering a 9-week course to unlock our universal inner potential and portals with Matthias, of course. And in short, I will just read what people can learn about. So where does the word alchemy come from and what is its true meaning? How sacred geometry and natural laws open the portal of universal knowledge, how to use your body as a map to access other dimensions and your higher self, how specific combinations of letters in the mantra change the vibration and open portals for manifestation, what is the fundamental purpose of the zodiac and how was it designed, what is the role of Archangel Metatron, Merkaba, Tree of Life, fractals in the organization of the universe. Of course, this is an advanced course from our young teacher, Matthias De Stefano, who is a contemporary mystic, philosopher, a spiritual teacher, known for his profound insights into the nature of reality and human consciousness. And his work often explores this topic that you said, ancient civilizations, and also metaphysics and interconnectedness of all things. So he gained widespread recognition through appearances of TV and also online programs. And he's sharing his unique perspective on spirituality in a very interesting way. So he, in a way, bridges ancient wisdom with modern understanding and offering a fresh perspective on the mysteries of existence. And you can all find a link to join in the description below the video, or you can write to us at croatia@unity.one. And before I announce another exciting program that you are part of, I just want to ask you briefly, you mentioned biogeometry. So maybe you can say something about it and how does it follow the principles of sacred geometry, biogeometry? How does it follow the principles?
Okay, yeah. So both these are not my main area of expertise. I just want to put that claimer out. Like, I have mentors in this. And Robert Gilbert and Dr. Ibrahim Karim are definitely the two go-to guys for sacred geometry and biogeometry, because there is a difference as well. Yes. on the podcast. And to simplify it, I look at sacred geometry as almost like being the blueprint. Like, if you're going to build a house, it has a blueprint, and sacred geometry is the blueprint that's given rise to form in life. It's not just some random accident. If you look at Newtonian physics, okay, and the depth of sacred geometry from that can go very deep very quickly with that. To compare it to biogeometry is using shape to increase the life force energy within existence. So you can start to support, so like a yoga pose is shaped in a particular yoga pose. I'm doing like downward dog here, whatever, to increase its energetic flow that brings you closer to divine, to source. So you can use shape to enhance life force in it. So I use it in my home. I'm actually wearing it right now.
Yes.
And I clear this. This is a pendant, a biogeometry pendant. I clear it twice a day. You'll see shapes that are engraved in here that actually resonate and support my systems and organs of the body energetically. So it's tools that allow you to remain in resonance, natural state of resonance. Because I think the challenge is, I hear this shocking stat, I'll keep it quick, but our nervous system receives more information in a day than it did in a lifetime 150 years ago. So we're constantly right? Like,
Yeah.
think of that stimulating. Like, show your face. What?
Yeah.
Wow. So I think our bodies, biologically, evolutionary, haven't been able to keep up of the technological advancements, and we can use ways to support our natural resonance and supporting our homeostasis. Because if we are out of balance, then being out of balance means we're in fight or flight. And if we're in fight or flight, that means we're not allowing the body to heal. It's always under a constant state of stress. And that can then show up 5 years, 10 years, 15, whatever it might be down the line. You know, so
You're
yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to say, you now mentioned this pendant. You also have on Live and Flow products, like biogeometry products that people can purchase, right?
In Australia, we do, yes.
In Australia,
yes.
yeah.
But there's a biogeometry in Europe if people want to explore it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
can you just mention some, I mean, you already said, but some benefits of having these products, like on the body or in the space to have us, to keep the
I'll just give some
connection
for people to ponder on as well, because the more connected I am to myself, the more connected we are to source, the more in resonance. My belief is the body that the energy that creates the body can also heal the body. So like when you think of creation, we're tapping into a powerful energy source here. And where do we spend the most time repairing? When we sleep. So our bedroom should become the most sacred place for us. And we can use the biogeometry to create a resonance within your home and within your bedroom that's supporting the way you sleep. It's critical. Really, I think it's absolutely critical, you know, because I'm somebody who worked in the health industry, obviously, for a long time as well. So I think about that. Then I'm working energetically with people. So I noticed if I don't have my boundaries secure within myself and my energy feels strong, then it's vulnerable to energetically be drawn, or I could then resonate on other people's levels, which sometimes I don't want to resonate in that level, you know?
Yeah.
So when I'm out and about, what this will do is will help support that. And most people, when they begin to wear them, they will feel it at first for the first day or two. And then from there, their body will start to recalibrate and support it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. And now we have another exciting announcement, the retreat in Sveti Martin with Guy, Matt, and Petra. So 5 days retreat called Mastering Your Inner Mystic in October from 23rd to 27th. That's a Live and Flow retreat. It will be in Terme Sveti Martin Resort. That is just 90-minute drive from Zagreb Airport. And it's really wonderful place with amazing people. So welcome. Can you tell us something more about it? Like what is the format of the retreat? What kind of techniques you're using, just so that people can get a bit familiar? And of course, apply and join us there.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I can certainly share some of the techniques. We never share the format because we like to keep people guessing, because they stay in the unknown and then they become comfortable in the unknown. But ultimately, we'll be using all the gifts that we've learned over the years, myself, Matt, and Petra, to allow people to really dive inward, connect to source, have that mystical experience, whether it matters or not really, but be able to then take that back into their lives and be living more from here. That's the aim of the game. But we'll be using meditation. We'll be using breath work. We'll be using sound. We did an incredible one-day event in Zagreb last year. I think over 100 people come and got to experience our work for the first time, myself and Matt. And it was, you know, the sound journeys are something else, you know, because you're working with vibration. And that resonance, and that can sweep through the body in ways that are indescribable, you know. So we'll be working with energy healing. We do a lot of that too, and regression work. It all complements each other as we go on a journey together. And most importantly, the biggest aspect is bringing people together.
Yeah, of
For
building
me,
a community. Yeah.
it's so special. It's so special when you have a group of people that start to harmonize synchronistically together. It amplifies everything tenfold. So everything, when you try and do it by yourself or when you do it in a group, it's
completely
beautiful.
different experience. Yeah.
It's very special. That's why I love doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
And
I
what
love
is
coming to
really
Croatia.
amazing. Yeah. You should come more often. And what I really like about your retreats and all your programs, that you give the opportunity for people to stay in that community. It's not just now we meet. I mean, it's amazing, even if you just meet, have this life-changing experience and never see each other again, but you give the opportunity to stay connected. So this is really
absolutely, yeah,
extra
absolutely.
thing, you know, value and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Really amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing all that.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to also say that it will be in English so that people know, and you can already apply. Application link will be below video in the description. I can also share link on Guy's podcast if you agree, and some other links.
Please.
So also I will share the link for our free masterclass right now. So you can just check all out. For the end of our conversation, can you share one message for our audience? Like if you have one message, what it would be? First thing that comes to your mind.
Yeah, what does your average perfect day look like? Ask yourself that. Yeah.
Invitation to start journaling. This is what Petra is also always mentioning, like start journaling, start writing.
And begin to honor that. And invite in the people and synchronicities and things in your life that are going to allow you to move in that direction. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm sure that your story has intrigued many of our followers of our community who will join the retreat and also become new fans of your podcast. So we will share the links and we are really looking forward to have you here in Croatia. And of course, while waiting for the retreat to start, you can all join our masterclass with Matthias De Stefano for free and learn more about these important spiritual topics. All the links will be in the description of the video. Thank you once again for this inspiring and amazing conversation, for all the stories you shared and your wisdom and your experience. It was really nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Taya.
Have a lovely day and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.